Welcome to Singapore Property Talk Law. Today we're diving deep, really getting into the details surrounding the launch of One Marina Gardens condo in Marina South.
Hey there. Yes, lots of buzz around this one.
Definitely. You've probably seen the headlines, especially about the launch weekend. We want to unpack what's actually significant, particularly for understanding the early sales and what it might mean.
Absolutely. And One Marina Gardens, well, it's got a unique position, doesn't it? It's the very first residential development right there in the Marina South precinct.
This first one out of the gate.
Exactly.
Huh.
And that's important because the URA, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, they have this huge vision for Marina South and a future-ready waterfront area, really connected into the CBD.
Like a whole new extension of the city almost?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
A mixed-use urban oasis is how they frame it. And being the first residential project, there's this potential, this early adopter advantage people talk about.
For capital appreciation, rental yields, that kind of thing, as the area builds up around it.
Precisely. As the master plan rolls out, which emphasizes things like sustainability, they're mandating very high green mark ratings for future projects there and walkability, like a 10-minute neighborhood.
Okay, so it's not just about this one building. It's about getting in on the ground floor of a whole new district concept.
That's the long-term picture, definitely. Location-wise, it's prime waterfront. We're talking views over the coastline, gardens by the bay, the barrage, even the city skyline, depending on the unit.
And connectivity is key here too, right? There's an MRT station coming.
Yes. Direct access to the upcoming Marina South MRT station. That's on the Thompsonese coastline, the TL.
Ah, the T-Tel. Very convenient.
It will be. It's also relatively close, maybe a 10-minute walk or so, to the existing gardens by the Bay Station, also on the TL.
So double tail access, eventually.
Plus, it's near Marina Bay Sands, the CBD. It's designed as a car light area, too. Lots of paths, less focus on parking.
Less parking. How much less? We should probably touch on the project details.
Good point. It's developed by a Kingsford-led group. They did Normanton Park, Kingsford Water Bay, too. About 937 units in 2 towers, one 30-story, one 44.
And the unit mix?
Ranges from 1 to 4 bedrooms. Sizes are roughly 420 square feet up to about 1,650 square feet. Interestingly, about 70% of the units are the smaller 1 and 2 bedders.
70%. That's quite a focus.
It is, and quite a few variations on the 2 bedders, like with a home, shelter, or a study. Also some 3-bed dual-key units. It's also a post-GFA harmonization project, which might mean more efficient layouts.
Okay. And amenities. What can residents expect?
Oh, the usual full suite. 50-meter pool, sky terraces, gyms, yoga spots, viewing decks, kids areas, plus an on-site childcare center.
Childcare on-site is handy. Any retail.
A small integrated podium on the first level. Looks like maybe 2 shops, 2 restaurants, plus the childcare. Around 150 square meters. Probably managed by the developer initially. Not a huge mall, but some conveniences.
Right, basic conveniences. Now, back to that parking point.
Yes, the parking provision is notably low. Only about 40% coverage, so 433 lots for 937 units. It's first come, first served.
Wow, okay. That's definitely part of the car light vision playing out. Potential buyers need to factor that in.
Absolutely, especially if they rely heavily on driving.
So let's pivot directly to the sales performance. Launched early April 2025. What happened?
Well, it had a strong start. By the end of that first launch weekend, April 13th, they'd sold 353 units. That's about 38% of the total.
38% in weekend. That sounds pretty solid.
It is a solid number, yeah. The average selling price landed at $2,953 per plane. That was actually a little bit above the initial indicative range they floated, which is more like $2,850 to $900.
So demand was strong enough to push prices slightly higher than expected.
It seems so. The indicative starting prices were around $1.16 million for a 1-bed, $1.8 million for a 2-bed, $2.45 million for a 3, and $4.45 million for a 4-bed.
And you mentioned the smaller units were popular.
Overwhelmingly so. Those 1 and 2 bedroom units, priced roughly between $1.16 and $2.17 million, accounted for about 83% of all the units sold at launch.
83%. That really tells a story. Who are the buyers? Mostly investors.
Well, the profile seems mixed, but interestingly, Singaporeans made up about 83% of the buyers. The rest were permanent residents and foreigners.
So strong local demand, primarily for the smaller, perhaps more accessible units price-wise.
That seems to be the case. The conversion rate from the initial expressions of interest they collected 863 checks to the actual sales was 41%. That's quite healthy, suggests real intent.
And I heard something about higher floors selling first.
Yeah, a bit of a top-down trend was observed. Higher floors got snapped up quickly. Could be the views, obviously, but maybe also the pricing structure. Perhaps the premium per floor wasn't seen as too steep.
So that average price, 2,953 PSFF. How did that stack up? Is it considered competitive?
When you compare it to some other recent launches, even in the city fringe or RCR, occasionally the suburbs, OCR, and definitely within the core central region, it holds its own.
Really? Even against some RCR projects?
Well, consider URA data for new non-landed homes in the downtown core, maybe 650, 750 feet. They've been averaging around $1.84 million this year. Some of the One Marina Gardens two-bedders are in that ballpark.
I see. So buyers might perceive it as relatively good value for a brand new condo in a future prime district with direct MRT access eventually.
That could be the calculation, yes. Plus, potential rental yields. Some analysts suggest maybe up to 4% gross yield based on current central area rents, though that's always speculative.
So the investment angle is definitely there, tied to that first mover idea. But are there downsides or things people should really think hard about?
Always. While the long-term vision is compelling, the short-term realities need weighing. We mentioned the parking, then there's the MRT station.
Right, the Marina South station isn't open yet.
Exactly, and the opening date isn't fixed. It's tied to when there's enough housing demand in the area to justify opening it. So there's some uncertainty there.
What about day-to-day stuff, like grabbing coffee or groceries?
That's another point. Right now, the immediate area lacks those everyday heartland amenities, hawker centers, neighborhood coffee shops, big supermarkets. The current offerings nearby tend to be more upscale, like at Marina Bay Sands.
So convenience for daily necessities might take time to develop within Marina South itself.
It likely will. Residents might need to travel a bit further for those things initially. Also, for families, there aren't any primary schools within that crucial 1-kilometer radius right now.
Ah, the 1-kilometer school radius. That's always a big factor for families thinking about resale later on.
It often is, yes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to resale. While the first mover potential exists for long-term appreciation, the near-term resale market might be trickier compared to established areas.
Why is that? Just because it's new and maybe less proven.
Partly. Also, historical data suggests profitability in the immediate Marina Bay area hasn't always kept pace with the gains seen in some popular RCR or even OCR districts. It might require a longer holding period to really see significant returns.
So patience might be needed. And the top key date. When can people expect to move in?
The expected temporary occupation permit, or TOP, is slated for the third quarter of 2028. Some sources mention 2029, so somewhere around then.
Okay, so quite a wait still. It gives the area time to develop further, I suppose.
It does. It allows time for infrastructure progress, maybe even for the MRT station opening date to become clear.
All right, so wrapping this up. One Marina Gardens. Clearly a significant launch, the first piece of the residential puzzle in Marina South. Strong initial sales, particularly smaller units bought mainly by Singaporeans, suggest confidence in the location and maybe the pricing relative to the core region.
Yes, the pricing seems to have hit a competitive spot. But buyers need to balance that long-term URA vision, the waterfront living, the connectivity, the sustainability focus.
Against the current realities, like the lack of immediate everyday amenities, the uncertain MRT opening date, limited parking, and maybe a longer horizon needed for resale gains compared to established estates.
Exactly. It's a unique proposition. Getting in early on a potentially transformative district, but with the understanding that the transformation takes time.
It definitely presents a unique opportunity and a distinct set of considerations. This deep dive should give everyone a clearer picture of what went down at the launch and what to think about with One Marina Gardens.
Hopefully clarifying things beyond just the initial sales numbers.
So for you listening, what stands out most? Is it the first mover potential, the waterfront lifestyle, or are the short-term conveniences and resale outlook more critical? It's certainly a development and a district to keep watching.